Based on the speeches that were delivered yesterday, I have a three takeaway. One of my main takeaway is that it's clear now that peace and stability is a priority that is required in South Sudan, and everybody is wishing to see peace and stability prevail in South Sudan, and that is very clear from the speeches from the government side, from the opposition side, and from the friends of South Sudan, being it IGAD, being St. Gideon, being the members of the international community. That's the first takeaway that I have. The second takeaway, it's that clear that now we have reached a momentum where our political leaders are required to demonstrate political accountability, and that is very clear. You can hear from the Kenyans the way how they display the friends of South Sudan in their attendance during the launching of the second phase of Tumaini initiative, and they are able to parade in some few countries. And actually we have realized that even including the Gulf, they are all as friends to South Sudan, and they wish us the best. That went to the second takeaway. The third takeaway, it is clear that we need to get peace through the Tumaini initiative, but we can see still there's a gaps, or there's what we call positions that are not agreed upon among the politicians, which you can term them as a government of national unity and the opposition, and mainly this is around the concept of the initial protocol of Tumaini, which were initial previously. Should they be open for renegotiation or not? The opposition was saying they are not ready for any reopening and renegotiation of the initial protocols, while from the speech of the head of the delegation of the government have said, yes, they are here to continue where we end, but they have some few observations that they want to deliver, and among the observations is that one, they want to look at aspects that they feel it's not comfortable in line with our access, and the head of delegation repeatedly say whatever agreement we are reaching out here in Nairobi, it should be in line with our access. They don't say anything that is contradictory with our access. And he didn't use the word renegotiation, but he used the word we will try to readjust some of the provisions that are in contradiction with our access. It means, in summary, the government is at a tack to renegotiate some of the provisions that they feel they're not comfortable with within the initial protocols of Tumaini. For me, I feel the third side of the takeaway may likely drag us beyond the deadline of 2 weeks. It may take us even until next year. Why? It seems our politicians, some of them, are not yet comfortable to the provisions or to the protocols that are signed or initial previously in Tumaini protocol. And some of them you can see from their body language. I will tell you something that I was surprised, and I want to be open to South Sudanese, is that immediately upon the closure of the event, we had a group photo. After the group photo, two particular leaders disappear without socializing with the people. From the government side is Honorable Martin Elia, who is the Minister of Cabinet Affairs. From the opposition is Pagana Mum. They disappear. The rest remain, and people socialize, people interact, but these two disappear. I think they have got some messages that are not comfortable with them, and specifically from the Principal Secretary of Kenyan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I can share with you what are those messages. For instance, for the government, in the closing of the statement of the Principal Secretary of Kenya Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he insisted that whatever we are doing should not be contradictory to our access and should be as a complementary to our access. That's a good message.
You also talked about the intention of Tumaini is not actually
exactly,
to replace the RSS.
Exactly. But the interpretation of his message around the intention is comfortable with the opposition, not comfortable with the government. So if you look at the speech of the Principal Secretary of Kenya Ministry of Foreign Affairs, almost 80% of his speech is not comfortable with the government, and 20% of his speech is comfortable with the government. And if you look with the opposition are not comfortable with this conclusive remark where he say that whatever we do in Nairobi under the Tumaini initiative is complementary to our access, and that is not good with the opposition, because that sounds to opposition that outcome of our access is going to be an annex to, or the outcome of Tumaini is going to be an annex to our access. While he told the government very clear that the intention of Tumaini, it is not to retain the status quo, not to entertain the status quo. The status quo must give in. If it means giving in means peace and stability, and that is not comfortable with the government. So for me, that is the differences. And if you see the speech of IGAD, Deputy Executive Secretary was very clear, and his message was not comfortable with the government, because of the government, South Sudanese are tired of the violence.
So to our
exactly. moment has come for South Sudanese leaders to take responsibility, even if it means you don't retain the status quo, you must give in for peace. And that is not comfortable for the government. And say, we in South Sudan, we have used all R's. There's no any alternative R. We have used R for revitalization. We have used R for relaunch. What R again do we want to use? And he insisted that there's a necessity for South Sudan to deliver peace in the quickest time. And he also saw a very good gesture, by the way. He told us very clear that whatever Tumaini will come with, IGAD is comfortable with it, and IGAD want to see Kenyans delivered in the secretariat that mediated the Tumaini together to implement the outcome of Tumaini. So it means IGAD is not in conflict with the process of the Tumaini. And the message of the chief mediator of Kenya, retired General Lajo Simbeyo, he sent a message very clear. South Sudanese citizens are tired. The leaders need to deliver peace, and the peace need to be delivered in an implementable manner. That's why we created new institutions like National Liberation Council. It is to impress the principle of inclusivity and the concept of converting the National Transitional Committee into a national implementation oversight committee, simply so that we use the resources widely for the sake of delivering peace and stability. And remember, in the past, so much money were eaten in the name of unification of forces. So let's be very straightforward that South Sudan need peace, not politics.
And the principal secretary also said, direct message actually to Kual Manyang and Pagana Moom and the rest. He said, promise us that you will deliver, you will conclude this process within 2 weeks before Christmas. What would you make of that?
Obviously, South Sudanese need peace even today or even since yesterday. That's what South Sudanese want. But the principal secretary of Foreign Affairs of Kenya have urged our leaders to commit themselves that the outcome of Tumaini is a Christmas gift for South Sudanese citizens, which is good. But my main worry is that our South Sudanese political leaders need to change their attitudes in order to enforce the call that was made by the principal secretary of Kenya. Because what wonder me is what is more important than the call made by Pope by kissing the feet of our leaders. And the kiss of the Pope on the feet of our leaders with the visit of Pope to South Sudan have never ever changed the political attitude of our leaders. So this call will be a realistic call if our political leaders have changed their attitudes of dragging feet simply because of their personal interest, not their best interest of the state of South Sudan, which is peace and stability.
Right. There's something I want to bring to your attention. I want to have your view on it. Yesterday in this very room, in this very mini studio, right where you're seated, Lual Dao, the spokesperson of SOMA, was here, our guest, and he said Tumaini initiative is going to be a stand-alone agreement. And after the resumption or the relaunch of the talks yesterday, I also caught up with the rapper of the government delegation, Dr. Martin Ilia Lomoro, who is also the Cabinet Affairs Minister, and he said, we cannot have two agreements in one country, meaning that Tumaini cannot be a stand-alone agreement. What's the analysis of what's your analysis as an activist?
Obviously, this is a point of what I call lack of agreement, but of course
from the beginning actually
I don't think that's going to continue. Yes, from the beginning they are completely different positions. Opposition believe the outcome of Tumaini is a stand-alone agreement and is not subject for renegotiation, the only initial protocols, and they believe our access have never ever delivered peace and stability required, though they acknowledge the relative peace and stability that exists in South Sudan under the offices of our access. But the government was saying whatever we're doing under the Tumaini initiative, it must be an annex to our access. Nothing is a standalone as an outcome of Tumaini. For me, this is the point of differences, and this is a point that may drag our feet for quite a number of days until next week, that we need to reach to consensus. And I would like to remind you, this is not new under the Tumaini initiative. If I remind you of the first day of the Tumaini initiative, when the opposition came with a similar, harder position of the government. The opposition was saying, we can't continue with Tumaini until we agree that the draft of the Constitution of South Sudan, the first draft, must be drafted in Kenya. Without it, we cannot continue. But we as a stakeholders at our different capacity, with our different identities, we are able to influence the political leaders, being it the government or being it the opposition. That's why we're able to reach to a point where we have initial 9 protocols. So for me, as long the table is open for dialogue, positions can shift, positions can be changed, being it of the government or being it of the opposition, and that's the duty why we are here as a stakeholders.
Do you think now with these different or contradicting statements or counter statements from both parties, this will actually lead to the delay in the last protocol, which is actually the responsibility and power sharing? Does that mean from today we're not going to start with the power sharing, but then we might start renegotiating the initial protocols already?
You know, we are in political processes, and in political processes, people like to come with different strategy. So the concept of renegotiation or not renegotiation is a strategy, is a warm-up, it's a preparation for the deliberation around the inclusive government and responsibility sharing. Remember, everybody normally in such process take a harder position in order to win something that is reasonable. Of course, we as a stakeholders in our different capacity, we wish our political leaders to take the responsibility of discussing or engaging under the Tumaini initiative with the concept of win-win approach, not win-lose approach. But normally in such political processes, each party come with a concept of I want to win and the other side have to lose. So until they reach a balanced position, they'll go for it. I don't think renegotiation is going to drag feet, but what I know that is going to take us along, it's the concept of how do you operationalize the principle of inclusive government and responsibility sharing. That means in practical or in lay person language, who are you going to get out of the government in order to allocate the seat of that person to the opposition, or what size of government or seats, how many seats do opposition want to feel that they are included in the government? And remember, day one of the Tumaini, the parties have agreed that the size of the government remain intact. What does that mean? It means 35 ministers, 550 MPs at national level, 100 MPs at the Council of State, state MPs is 100, and state ministers remain at the size right now. But if Tumaini reach to a conclusive agreement that inclusive government responsibility sharing have to be embraced, some ministers from the national government have to quit their position and accommodate the opposition leaders, maybe one or two, I don't know, whatever they're going to agree upon, some MPs at national level, at the Council of States, and likely also it may affect the arrangement of the state government, but we don't know what numbers they're going to agree upon. But this is something that may drag our feet beyond 2 weeks. It may take us even until next year. And the body language that I have seen yesterday from some politicians who are interested to retain their position, their body language is not encouraging. But they are minimum. They are not the majority. They are minority. So what does it mean? It means we as a stakeholder have a responsibility to reflect the interest of our citizens, to influence such political leaders that have a very bad body language to convert themselves to something that favors the best interest of our citizens. So for me, I have to be honest with you, I have to be sincere with you. The language of renegotiation, no renegotiation, we're going to readjust. It's just a political position towards the mediation table, which will open today. But this is subject to be changed, and that is part of our responsibility as a stakeholders to influence them. But the power sharing, which is called responsibility sharing, may drag our feet because some of these politicians are not interested for democracy or transparency or accountability apart from securing political seats from Nairobi.
The chief, the head of government delegation yesterday, Col Manyang, during his speech, he reiterated the call, and he actually requested or asked Chief Mediator, retired General Lazarus Simboyo, to reach out to persuade the holdout groups, for instance, General Thomas Cirillo and Simon Gadwich. Do you think it's a positive gesture from the resumption of the peace talks from the government side?
Obviously, as a stakeholders, our interest that we need to see a comprehensive political settlement of the political differences that our country is facing. So everybody want to see in Nairobi, and we have multiple times call upon our brothers and sisters who are not yet under the Tumaini to come, and that means Soma, where is led by General Thomas Cirillo, Emmanuel Ajawin, Alex Yatta, and of course our brother Simon Gatwich under Kitigwang, Ayo Kitigwang group in Khartoum. We are aware that Simon Gatwich is interested to come and join the mediation table in Nairobi, but his main problem is logistical issues. Where he is, for him to leave where he is and reach Addis Ababa to come and join us like Stephen Boy requires a lot of logistical arrangement, and also it requires acceptance from Sudan. It's good that yesterday Burhan was in Juba. I wish His Excellency President could have asked Burhan to release Simon Garwich to come and join us in Tumaini. Simon Garwich is ready to come. But to the best of my interest from reliable sources, I don't think General Thomas Cirillo, Emmanuel Ajawin, and Alex Yatta will come and join us in Nairobi. Why? Recently, we have been with them in a plenary in discussion, and specifically Emmanuel Ajawin, who reflected the position of SOMA. First, they believe that the SOMA, who is in Nairobi, led by General Pagana Mum, and where the membership of Paul Malong, Wea Deng Ajak, and Cirillo Iteng are not the original SOMA. They are the original SOMA because they believe this group have not signed what do you call the binding document that led to the formation of SOMA. They have not signed it, so they believe that SOMA. Two, I have a feeling that the two groups have a personal problems. Remember Emmanuel Akile, before we come under Tumaini, when there's a mediation going on in Rome under St. Gideon, and by then the team leader of the government was Honorable Benjamin Marial. SOMA split. One SOMA came here under the mediation of Nial Deng, and they started the Nairobi process. They failed to deliver, and is the current SOMA that we have in Juba. I feel the group in Rome believe that they are original SOMA, and they don't believe on the SOMA that exists in Nairobi. So it means we're not going to have a moment where you can see eye to eye, where the SOMA under Thomas Cirillo and SOMA under Paul Pagana Mum will sit here in Nairobi. So the weakness is that they have a personal differences. So this language of that security is not secured in Nairobi, I don't think is the truth, but the truth is that the SOMA led by Thomas Cirillo and SOMA led by Pagana Mum cannot sit eye to eye. Why? The SOMA led by Thomas Cirillo believe that their counterparts have betrayed them when they came to Nairobi in the first attempt of reaching a deal. So that's what they have in their mind.
They're not supposed to come here.
They're not supposed to come here and sit with them at the same table. Even if you relocate Tumaini today to any city, even if you relocate to New York, where the UN Security Council is, I'm quite sure still SOMA under Thomas Cirillo will have a preconditions of why they will not join the process. So what does it mean? It means for me is an appeal and is a call for politicians that whenever you have a mediation table as a politician, you should be ready to engage, and you should be ready to face the mediation table as a politician. That's why in history of the SPLA, SPLM, Dr. John Garang have never rejected any call for mediation. That's why you have Berlin 1, Berlin 2, Abuja 1, Abuja 2, Nairobi. Always whenever SPLM is called, they go for it. So for me, my appeal goes back to the leadership of Thomas Cirillo, Emmanuel Ajawin, and Alex Yatta, that if they feel they're politician, that they want to express their voice, their position to the citizen of South Sudan to value that, they need to come to Nairobi and sit on the mediation table as a politician. Politics have consequences. So for me, it is not something realistic for any party to give a precondition for mediation in the absence of the mediation table. The presence of SOMA under General Thomas Cirillo and Emmanuel Ajawin and Alex Yatta, if they report to Nairobi to the table, they still retain the rights to withdraw after they express themselves, and that is why the city of South Sudan will know what is their political objective.
But do you think they would have different views on the initial protocols already, and the protocols are not might not
obviously
be subjected to renegotiation? So why would they join? Because
obviously,
they might have different views.
Obviously, my engagement with Emmanuel Ajawin, one thing he told me very honest and sincere, and I respect Emmanuel Ajawin. I've interviewed with him. Emmanuel Ajawin say, already the 9 initial protocols of Tumaini have started. We don't know what's its detail. We may not support it. We may open for a negotiation. And our counterparts, being the government or opposition, Nairobi may not be interested to re-opposition. That's why we're saying you finish Tumaini, and then we'll join with the government whenever they want us, and we're ready to mediate. And the first attempt of Rome, that remember, within the spirit of Tumaini, the delegation left to Rome. So for me, what we have right now is that we have politicians who want to bring peace in pieces. So this ideology of peace in pieces is the continuous position of the opposition in Nairobi, and specifically SOMA, Rome delegation, not SOMA under the Tumaini initiative. So our appeal is that peace in pieces is the position they have up to. We'll continue using peace in peace until we have comprehensive peace. We don't have money to pay almost 1 year's salaries for our civil servants in Juba. And as where I'm speaking right now, me and you, Akile, we are in Glee Hotel. in Glee Hotel under the mediation, government is given 17 rooms that have to accommodate them, and these 17 rooms are being paid for by the money of the donors. But still, our government delegation, beyond 17, they're almost 30-something, they went and live in Serena Hotel in Nairobi. Calculate a single room for a single delegate, which are like 35, at the expenses of $100. That is almost thousands of dollars, which could have paid outstanding arrears of one county of a group of civil servants. They could have enjoyed the Xmas. Right now, they are in a hotel differently, leaving their rooms in Glee Hotel and accommodated for, and these rooms were being paid for. Why do you go to a very expensive hotel like Serena to live in and leave room and that the mediation of Kenya that has been paid for 17 in Glee? So what does it mean? It means the suffering of our citizens is a political opportunity for some political class. So actually, disagreement of politicians offer them a nya project to eat under the concept of peace agreement. So why should the government live in Serena Hotel and leaving their rooms in Glee Hotel if they really value the suffering of our citizens? So it's very clear, and that's why I would like to use this platform to call upon His Excellency President to direct the government delegation to come and occupy their empty rooms in Glee Hotel, which has been paid for, and now they are deepening their hands into the revenue that's supposed to pay outstanding, or what do you call, arrears of our civil servant, which is almost for 1 year. That money that they are using in Serena Hotel for their accommodation, for their meal, for everything, could have paid arrears of a certain civil servants in one county or in one institution of the government. Because remember, they have here meals paid for in Glee Hotel, but they went to a different hotel. That's really a consequence, and that's a clear indicator that our politicians love the suffering of our citizens as an opportunity for nya project that they would like to enjoy. The other thing that I can come forward to our citizens is that for our politicians to reconcile, to put their differences and to work together.
Forget about the past also.
Forget about the past. It is a political attitude change of individuals. They need to change the political attitude. But we have a very indisciplined politician, premature politicians that see their differences to actually act as underlining factor for stability in the country. Of course, that is simply an indicator that politicians like to control power so that they have access to our resources. So my message to the citizens through this particular platform, that the journey to have a comprehensive stability in the country is still far until our political leaders change their attitude that enough is enough. We need to work for peace and stability in the country. We'll continue suffering after, but this means as a citizen, let us demand. That's why I'm telling you, Emmanuel Akile, if today under the leadership of President Salva, they open political and civic space without any restriction, even we don't need an agreement. Open the political space, let everybody express himself, herself, and allow people to carry out their political activities and put election in a credible manner. We don't need all this peace agreement.
No.
Simply the incumbent government have a responsibility to allow an open and civic space to attract people to come back home and allow this arbitrary arrest and detention. So for me, the politicians have the primary responsibility to make South Sudan great, but also they can mess up with it if they have the love for power more than stability of the country.
نعم عندنا 5 دقائق لرأس الساعة. في سؤال بعربي من فرانكو سبت، سؤال مهم جدا، إنه دائما بيكون في agreement after agreement كله قاعد يفشل، يعني failed agreements after agreement. يعني تومايني نبي يعني شنو، يعني حل الضمانات شنو إنه تومايني حينجح في التنفيذ بتاعه؟
والله ضمانات للتومايني إلا لو إذا في تغيير تسلوك من قادة حقنا السياسيين. لو قادة حقنا السياسيين ما غير سلوك حقهم إنه هم بتركزوا إنه يأكد البلد يكون عايز في استقرار سياسي. لو إذا هم بتركز في سلوك حقهم إنه عندهم حب لمناصب السياسية الفردية، البلد ده حيستمر في عدم الاستقرار لطول المدى لحد إلا سياسيين دل لو على شعله من الدنيا وعدنا سياسيين إنه بحب إنه شنو الاستقرار الشامل في البلد. فأنا بالنسبة لي لأخوي إنه اتفاقيات ده أو توماين ده ما عنده أي ضمانات إنه هينجو هيسقط زي باقي اتفاقيات اللي سقطوا. وفي نفس الوقت إن يا أخي كل زائد لو كون إنه كيس حق بوب في شوز حق الليدرز حقنا ما جاب اتفاقيه شامل، يبقى انتم ما هجاب اتفاقيه شامل. بالنسبه لي كل شيء مبني على تغيير سلوك سياسي من قاده حقنا السياسيين. لو اذا هم غير سلوك حقهم من حب للسلطه، حب للمعارض، وما عندهم حب للاستقرار شامل في البلد، احنا مهما كان وكان اي اتفاقيه ده وارد للشنو للانتهاك زي ما اتفاقيات تم شنو انتهاك لهم فتره السابق. فانا بالنسبه لي انه القاده السياسيين حقنا حتى الان بيحب عدم الاستقرار وبحب متاعب حق الجنوب او حق الشعب حق جنوب السودان، لان ده بالنسبه لهم ده وسيله لسبل الميسه. التعب حقنا وسيله لسبل الميسه من لبعض من القياديين السياسيين، مهما كانوا هم قالوا عايزين شفافيه، عايزين ديمقراطيه، عايزين حكم راشد، لكن يكون انه احنا بنكون عايزين في عدم الاستقرار بالنسبه لهم دي فرصه سعيده وسياسه حلوه وسياسه زي عسل.
بكل اختصار الليله من المتوقع شنو يحصل؟ What are we expecting today to happen?
Of course today we are expecting the mediation team to continue with the consultation with the team to narrow the differences they have. Of course we are aware from yesterday and the body language that still today may not be a soft day, tomorrow may not be a soft day, but we wish as a stakeholders to influence them and we'll go in between them to make today is a soft day. I hope that by the end of the day today, the citizen will get a good news or bad news. Good news if our political leaders change their attitudes from what they expressed yesterday. Bad news if they remain rigid and their love for power, they continue insisting on it. So for me, as a stakeholders, on behalf of my colleagues as stakeholders, our interest is to influence our politicians to give chance for our citizens to decide who is to be their leader through the ballot box, but also not where we don't see a conducive environment for elections. So as stakeholders, we'll influence the opposition, we'll influence the government for the best interest of the citizens. So that's what I expect today, and I wish that today our politicians will show a sense of political responsibility to achieve a comprehensive peace and stability through Tumaini and our access. The concept of standalone, the concept of renegotiation, the concept not for renegotiation is nonsense without giving the citizens peace and stability that they wish.
Right. Edmond Yakani, Executive Director of CEPAL, thank you very much for joining us on the Dawn in our mini studio here in Nairobi today.
Thank you very much for hosting me too. And I would like to say, citizens remain civically committed and hold our leaders accountable. As we are here on their behalf, we will hold them accountable. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. الحادي حواري ده كله ما عندنا الليلة من العاصمة الكينية نيروبي في مبادرة بتاع تومايني ده البث المباشر هنا. نرجع لك الميكروفون أنا والزميل بتاعي اللو نيلسون. نتلاقى بكرة في لقاء تاني.
نعم شكرا جزيلا ايمانويل جوزيف اكيل وضيف بتاعك هناك ادمون ياكاني ولو نيلسون من العاصمه الكينيه نيروبي. نيابه عن زملائي تندلي جورجي اوان موسيس، انا كنت معكم الهادي حواري اللي احنا نقابلكم بكره في يوم جديد وتاريخ جديد، بس كونوا معنا بعد شويه حكون في اخبار بالعربي مع الزميله بتاعي ديكو دي اندرو.